Hello, family, and welcome to the Jay and Dre Show. I'm your host, Dre.
I'm your boy, Jay.
And this week, we got a topic that's really been sitting on my mind for a little while that I did think we were going to touch on, but I kind of feel like somebody needs to say something. That is Colin Kaepernick. For those of you who may not know, Colin Kaepernick is a African American quarterback of biracial descent who this past season protested for the unarmed shooting of black individuals in America by kneeling for the national anthem. Now, a lot of people disagree with this protest, some of which may be merited, some of which I feel misses the point entirely. However, the point is he peacefully protested his views. He was not disruptive. And now that he's a free agent, he seems to be being blackballed. Colin Kaepernick may not be a top 5 NFL quarterback, but I would find it very hard to say that he's not better than one of the 32 overall quarterbacks starting in the NFL right now, or at least projected to start, because he definitely has the talent to be an NFL starter. He's taking a team to the Super Bowl. So where I want to start off this discussion at, we know why he protested, and do you feel that some of the criticisms around his protests during last season was valid?
Yes and no.
Go ahead.
From the overwhelming majority of African American viewpoint, that answer would be no. The people that are mad, they would say, and we would say, why don't you feel the same way when such and such is gunned down in the streets unlawfully? So I say yes, because you can't tell people how to feel. But with that being said, it's absolutely ludicrous that this man has not been signed by a team as a starting quarterback, in my opinion, or even worse, a backup quarterback. The NFL has signed people that have committed felonies.
Yes.
Plaxico Burress, Michael Vick, that they have signed women beaters. The guy with the Cowboys a little while back. Also the DN from the Carolina Panthers. Ray Rice didn't get a shot, but there's been plenty of people besides that. Let's not forget Ray Lewis being accused of a double homicide. Terrell Suggs. I mean, they have signed people with atrocities on their rap sheet. So this man, whether you agree with him or not, or whether you agree with the manner of how he did it or not, this man committed no crime. This man is not a criminal. This man has always been respectful, and he even explained himself and stated that this is not aimed at the military. This is not aimed against the United States. But what I am saying, that we're going to be a country that lives up to its creed. We cannot let the unarmed killing of minorities by law enforcement officers go on without it being duly debated and talked about. As we had an earlier video, I had a viewpoint on police brutality amongst black Americans that most African Americans would disagree with me on. But I can say I do agree with Colin Kaepernick, because he wanted dialogue. There's nothing wrong with having accountability for the people that we vote into office and that we pay with our tax money. And if you have a problem with him saying that I don't feel there's enough accountability, there's enough dialogue around this matter, then you're unpatriotic, in my opinion. So I definitely agree that he's being blackballed, and I definitely agree that it's undeserving.
Nah, definitely. And to piggyback off your point, his protest is something that I feel very passionate about. One, because I feel like a lot of people that are critical of him don't get the point and miss the point entirely. If you think about it, one, our U.S. Constitution gives us the right to free speech before we have the right to a gun. the right for free speech and freedom of the press is the First Amendment. The right to bear arms is the Second Amendment. So before I have a right to a firearm, I have the right to criticize and be critical of my government and political figures. And that, honestly, is how America was born, and that is one of the most patriotic things that America can do, in my honest opinion. With that being said, those who try to say that his protests are aimed at police and military figures, and the military in general, I feel that, one, you're ignoring what he's been saying the whole time, which is, I'm not protesting the military. I'm not protesting the police. Mm-hmm. And he's been very clear that he's protesting police brutality. And the thing that upsets me most when it comes to the reaction to his protests, even if he was protesting the military and police, it's still his right. Mm. So with all that being said, he has done nothing wrong. He has done nothing that is outside the bounds of the legal system. Mm-hmm. And for those who want to, for lack of a better term, crucify him for his protests, you missed the whole entire point of the flag. You exalt the symbol of freedom over the freedoms which it itself represents, which is my biggest problem with the critics of his protest. Now, if you want to say, you know what, I agree with his sentiment, I'll protest a little bit differently, I'll do this, I'll do that, you know what?
That's fine.
That's fine. I personally don't believe in telling someone how to protest, as long as it's peaceful and done in a manner where it's not causing violence and you know, social uproar. And that's just my opinion on that. It's one of those things that I feel that a lot of people who are being very critical of haven't took the time to actually think all the way through. Mm-hmm. Now, with that being said, one of the knocks on Colin has been, well, he didn't have a good season last year with the 49ers. 49ers, I'm a lifelong 49ers fan. They were atrocious last season. And do you think there have been those that are trying to make the argument that he's not talented enough to start in the NFL? Do you believe that?
No. Okay, for example, I played collegiate football, but I'm not a huge NFL fan, but I forgot the guy. He was the quarterback from the Jets. I think Ryan Fitzgerald is his name.
Yeah.
Like, he's had multiple opportunities, and I think even last year, Colin Kaepernick was still better than like maybe 10 to 12 other quarterbacks as far as his QB rating. So for people to say maybe he's not a starting quarterback in this league, but he definitely deserves a backup role at least. He should have been signed. He did take his team to the AFL and NFL finals and to the Super Bowl. He had a great game in the Super Bowl. Almost brought his team back in the second half and won that game. Mm-hmm. So he's still young. And if you even look at last year, he got better as the year progressed. Like, his last couple of games, he was actually doing pretty decent, running the ball and throwing the ball. And even though Chip Kelly stated that a big part of that, he wasn't in game shape at the beginning of last year, but if you really watch him, he progressed through the season. So, no, that's for lack of better words, that's BS. He's definitely better than a lot of guys who have starting jobs, and tremendously better than a lot of guys who have been signing up for backup roles.
Nah, I would definitely concur. Honestly, I think that claim is felonious at best. If you look at Colin Kaepernick's numbers, outside of wins and losses, he has a 4-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. He had 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions last year on the season.
It's not bad.
Not bad at all. But also, taking the context that you got rid of his wide receivers, you got rid of his tight end, you got rid of all his targets that he was familiar with. This man had a brand new receiving core. You took away all his weapons and gave him basically nothing in return. So the only quarterback that I've ever legitimately seen do something like that year in, year out is Tom Brady. And even Brady has some continuity where, you know, he doesn't lose all his guys at once. So I feel that it's really nitpicking, and it's really a little bit disingenuous to say, oh, just because they had a terrible season last year that he's not talented. Like he clearly showed that he's very safe with the ball. He makes good decisions, and as you say,
he's serviceable.
Yeah, I mean, he did the best he could with what he had, and like I said, I don't think he's an elite QB in the NFL, but I definitely think he's good enough to land a starting job. He's definitely good enough to be on the NFL roster.
Definitely.
So,
yeah, and then my thing with the whole it's because of his play on the field. If it was because of just his play on the field, it would be no need for the Ravens owner to tell the fans, let's pray about it. What is that about? Either he's good enough to play or he's good enough not to play. So being that you're having to pray about should we sign him or not, it lets me know that the major cause is because of the protests. And my thing is, for people who will watch this video and disagree with Colin Kaepernick's protest, whether the players admit it or not, the majority of the league is African American, right? And the majority of the league's African Americans feel the same way Colin Kaepernick do. So, at the end of the day, what you're almost saying is, we just want you to run on the field and be a quiet Negro and be quiet. Don't say anything, play, go home, shut up. And that's a Jim Crow mentality. So if you're going to not like him, then you have to not like 7% of the league because they feel the same way he does, but they didn't have the courage to go about it in the manner that he did. So, I mean, it's just ludicrous to me, man.
Nah. And you also have to keep in mind, too, that he sparked, once people found out what he was protesting, because a lot of people forget that initially he was just kneeling. He didn't tell anybody. It was something he was personally doing. So I think it was like 2 or 3 games in, a reporter finally asked him, like, yo, saw you kneeling. Like, why are you kneeling? And that's when he gave his cause. But once everybody found out why he was kneeling, a lot of people on other teams began to do similar protests. I remember I want to say it was the Giants, but it might have been another team. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, they came out arms locked. I mean, in solidarity. So, I mean, this isn't just a microcosm way. This is one man's fringe viewpoint. A lot of these players feel the exact same way, or at least feel enough of that to support them in some type of way or show their solidarity with them by protesting in a similar manner. And last point I want to touch on, and I feel you took it in a great way with the Jim Crow mentality. You know, a few players have come out over the offseason, such as Richard Sherman and I believe Michael Bennett. I believe there was another as well, in their support saying that this man should be signed to the NFL roster. And my ultimate question is, just as I would say the majority of the black players feel the same way that Colin Kaepernick is feeling right now, I would say the majority of the black populace feels the same way Colin Kaepernick does. Would you
yeah, the overwhelming majority.
So, here's the ultimate question. If Colin Kaepernick is not signed to an NFL roster, and at this point it seems to be overtly apparent that it's linked to his protests and political stance on police brutality of African Americans, do you believe that this upcoming season African American fans should do something to support and protest the league in some way, shape, or form?
Okay, before I get started, let me be clear. This is not necessarily my standpoint.
Okay.
What you're asking me to do is decide whether or not the people who do feel this way, whether they should protest the NFL, correct?
Yeah, this purely hypothetical.
And I would say, man, yes, but I really don't think it's going to help. I would say yes because you have to put your money where your mouth is. But man, the NFL is such a juggernaut from a financial standpoint. I don't think it'll help. What would help though It's if the players that agree with Colin Kaepernick and some major stars, some Richard Sherman, some Michael Bennett's, some Gurley, some major stars came and said, we're not taking the field unless this man gets signed. Now that's kind of hard because how can you tell another team who to sign? But at the same token, let's not kid ourselves. This man deserves to be playing in the NFL. So the bigger thing will be to me is the fans to push the players. We're going to hold you accountable because enough is enough. It's going back to my video, to one of our first videos. Until you control your faucet, you cannot complain about the water. How dope would it be if Jay-Z came and said, man, if he don't get signed this year, fine. I'm going to sign him to the second row with Rock Nation making $10 million a year. Just to prove a point. Just to prove that if you're not going to do right by, quote unquote, our own, we're going to do right by our own. That's where my philosophy in my head is at. Because at the end of the day, that's their faucet. So the owners feel that this person would hurt their bottom line. And people have called the Ravens and made it known, oh, I wouldn't attend any games. So, and there, if you go to any NFL game, if you see who buy majority of merchandise, it's typically Caucasian males. So the owners, from a money perspective and a business perspective, they're going to side with Caucasian males. But what makes the NFL great, a lot of the times, not only, but are African American players. So they have what they call it, a big shareholder, a stakeholder. They're a big stakeholder in the NFL. Mm-hmm. So the players, the fans have to make the players more accountable to represent their feelings, because fans taking a stance will go far, but players taking a major stance will take it from here to here.
No, I definitely would agree with that. If you could get players involved and, like you said, get a few marquee names to basically say, look, I'm not taking the field at all until this man is signed to a roster to one of the 32 clubs in the NFL, I feel that would be tremendous, and I feel that would be the most effective and the biggest protest that could be done in support of him. But honestly, and this is just me personally, what I'm going to do this season, but I honestly don't plan to watch a game. I don't plan to buy any of the products from their sponsors. And for me, I know it may not, me not buying a few cases of Budweiser this season, or going to an NFL game, or watching a game, they may not feel the dent. But the thing of it is, you have to keep in mind with protests, I feel that sometimes when it comes to protesting, we have a little bit of a microwave generation nowadays, where people will go out, they'll march, they'll picket, they'll do whatever for a week, maybe two, and then they're gone and it's off to the next cause. Like, every protest has been successful. It takes a while. Like, if you get what you want in 2 weeks, it probably wasn't that big of an issue to begin with. Mm-hmm. But if you think back, think back to like the Montgomery bus boycotts. It was years. It was years of people basically carpooling, walking to work, going wherever. And, you know, it's one of those things where I do feel ultimately, I feel that Black African American people need to stand up in some way, shape, or form, and say that this is not all right. And what that is or what it needs to be, I'm not in the business of that, but I can speak from my personal viewpoint. I'm a 49ers fan. I'm not gonna watch a 49ers game. I was gonna buy my NFL Sunday ticket, which is a $200 TV subscription to get all the games this season. I'm not getting it. So, you know, it's one of those things where even if it was half the black fans of the NFL, say they made up 20% of the revenue from tickets and merchandise. That's 10. That you talking about 10%.
Talking about probably $100 million
of the revenue right there. That would be impacted. So I want to leave off with saying don't underestimate the impact that you can have, and also in terms of protesting or doing something, just like Colin did in the beginning, you don't necessarily have to broadcast and do things on a macro scale to do something. I mean, if you doing right by yourself and doing right by your conscience, then who else is there left to do right by?
But quick question before we hang it up.
Go ahead.
Now, people kind of, what you said just now is similar to what Ray Lewis said. He was like, let your play do the talking. And people crucified him for that. And I see why people crucified Ray Lewis for that. But I also see what Ray Lewis is trying to say. To me, he was saying you're better on the field than off the field. But so are you familiar with his comments?
Yeah.
So I want you to just, before we go, tell me what you think about Ray Lewis' comments and a quick thought about Mike Vick's comments.
I completely disagree with Michael Vick's comments. First of all, let's keep this in perspective. Not to knock Michael Vick as a person or anything, but purely with his comments, I completely disagree. Colin Kaepernick has done nothing wrong. He has not committed any crime. He has not violated any rule. He has not done anything to deserve a second chance. So the whole thing that he needs a second chance, to me, is felonious. He never did anything to screw up his first one. That's like a parent going to a child that's done nothing wrong and saying, you know what, I may not like such and such, but I ain't gonna give you a second chance. Well, they never did anything to ruin the first time. In terms of Ray Lewis's comments, I understand what Ray's trying to say, and I felt like what Ray was trying to say was, you know what, this criticism that's coming at you, like, don't feel the need to clap back. He's basically saying, at this point, I know you want to play football. Football is what you want to do. Get back on the field by any means necessary. Which I don't disagree with that sentiment at all. I feel like what some people were taking it as was Ray trying to say, hey, look,
be quiet and united.
Yeah.
I don't think he was saying that.
Exactly. I don't think Ray was saying that at all. I think what he was really trying to say was, look, for the importance of, because he stated on numerous times, like, he agrees with it. Yeah.
I agree. He said that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I really feel like what he was really getting at was simply like, look, man, get back on the field, and that's the best thing for your platform right now. Because a lot of people don't know this, but Ray Lewis has also been doing similar work with young kids in Baltimore, where he's been taking them, mentoring them, trying to get them out the streets and show them something better than life. So this isn't just a case of somebody just coming out and preaching on something that's just in the news that they don't have any experience with. Like, he's out there doing something. You may disagree with his methods. You may disagree with some of the things that he says and does. And that's completely fine and legitimate. But I personally didn't see anything really wrong with what he was saying. He was basically, I felt like what he really was saying is like, look, Colin, be about your business, get back on your field. And the people that are around you and support you, the people like a Richard Sherman, the people like myself, we the ones that right now need to come, stand up, and fight for you on your behalf. Like, you know what, you've done enough. At this particular moment, you've done enough for your cause, in advancing your cause. Get back on the field, because if you don't get back on the field, what you're trying to do is going to be severely hampered, because it's through football that you've been advancing and pushing your message. And it's kind of like taking the pulpit away from the pastor, as how I saw it. And basically, I felt like Ray was just saying, look, man, get your pulpit back.
Hey, man, just to I have a quick word, man.
Sure.
And it's kind of what Jay said. How we still slaves in 2016. Until you own your own, you never be free. This is just an example, man. I live by this. Until you control your faucet, you can't complain about water. Not saying that Kaepernick did anything wrong, but what I'm saying is, man, it's time for African Americans to understand that we have to have some financial, we have to have a major financial stake in things before we see what we want to get done. Because until we start controlling the money and controlling more of the revenue, we're talking, we're what do you call it, the fox howling at the moon, the wolf howling at the moon, we're howling at the moon. Because at the end of the day, the owners control the majority of the money. Their fans tend to think like them. Our majority of the fans think in their manner, so they're going to go with them. But if Oprah Winfrey owned a football team, she could say, I'm signing him. That's what I'm saying. Until you control your faucet, you can't complain about the water, man. So we have to start controlling our faucet.
I would concur, man, 100%. Definitely 100% on point. Any last thoughts for us before we close this out?
Nah, man, I just hope the brother, man, the brother deserves a job in the NFL. But if that doesn't happen this year, I really hope that somebody, and I hope whoever sees this video shares it and gets it out there, that somebody with major coinage says, if you're not going to pay this brother, we're going to pay this brother. Just to show that, hey, man, we can take care of our own too. So that's all I have to say about that.
Okay. I would concur. I definitely feel it's a travesty that Colin Kaepernick hasn't been signed to the NFL roster at this point in the NFL offseason. I think it's overwhelmingly deliberate at this point, and there's a message being sent, and the message is clear. And at this point, I think we as a people and as a populace really have to take notice of this message, because it's being aimed at us and directed to us loud and clear, and have to decide, what are we going to do? Well, that's been it for this week. Thank you all for watching. I'm Dre.
I'm your boy Jay.
And don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And follow us at the social media sites down below. Thank you, and have a great day. Peace, one love.